The dawn of the 1960s. A vibrant, youthful energy pulsed through America, embodied by a charismatic new president, John F. Kennedy. His election, a triumph of youth over experience, promised a new frontier, a Camelot where ideals soared and possibilities seemed endless. The nation, still shaking off the post-war conformity, embraced his vision with a hopeful fervor. From his stirring inaugural address, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," to his unwavering pursuit of a moon landing, Kennedy inspired a generation. But beneath the surface of this shimmering optimism, the currents of change churned. The Cold War cast a long, ominous shadow. The Cuban Missile Crisis bringing the world to the precipice of nuclear annihilation before Kennedy's steady hand pulled it back. At home, the fight for civil rights raged, challenging the very fabric of American society. Black Americans, galvanized by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., demanded equality. Their protests met with both brutal resistance and the dawning realization of a moral imperative. This was an America of stark contrasts, booming prosperity for some, systemic oppression for others, a nation reaching for the stars, yet grappling with its own earthly injustices. Into this complex tapestry, JFK brought a youthful vigor and an undeniable charm. He captivated the world with his intellect, his wit, and the elegance of his family, particularly his stylish wife, Jacqueline. They were the epitome of modern royalty, their lives played out on the global stage, a symbol of American power and aspiration. Yet, even in this era of soaring hope, a subtle unease lingered, a presentiment of the fragility of dreams. The morning of November 22nd, 1963, dawned crisp and clear in Dallas, Texas. A day that would forever be etched into the collective memory of a nation, and indeed, the world. Air Force One, gleaming silver against the blue Texas sky, touched down at Love Field. On board, President Kennedy, beaming alongside his radiant wife, Jacqueline, and Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of excitement and expectation. Dallas, a city with its own simmering tensions, was ready to welcome the president. For many, it was a moment of pride, a chance to see the embodiment of American promise up close. For others, a deeper, darker undercurrent of dissent churned. Stepping off the plane, the first couple was met with enthusiastic cheers. Jackie, in her iconic pink Chanel suit and matching pillbox hat, was a vision of grace. The motorcade assembled, a gleaming line of vehicles ready to carry the presidential party through the heart of Dallas. The route, meticulously planned, would take them along Elm Street, through Dealey Plaza, and onto the Trade Mart, where Kennedy was scheduled to speak. The streets were lined with eager faces, a vibrant tapestry of Americans from all walks of life, waving flags, holding signs, eager to catch a glimpse of their president. The open-top limousine, a symbol of accessibility and trust, moved slowly through the throngs. Kennedy, ever the politician, waved, smiled, and acknowledged the cheers, soaking in the adulation. Jackie, elegant and composed, waved too, her smile a reflection of her husband's warmth. Governor John Connally of Texas and his wife, Nellie, shared the limousine, their conversation light and amiable. Nellie Connally turned to the president, her words echoing the sentiments of the crowd. "Mr. President, you can't say Dallas doesn't love you." The motorcade continued its slow, steady progress, turning onto Elm Street, the Texas School Book Depository building, rising ominously to their right. The sun was bright, the air filled with the murmur of the crowd, the whirring of cameras, the distant blare of sirens. Then, at 12:30 p.m., the world tilted. A sharp crack, then another, reverberated through the plaza. For a fleeting moment, confusion reigned. Was it a firecracker? A backfire? Then the horrifying realization. The president slumped forward, his hands instinctively grasping his throat. Jackie, with a gasp of raw, visceral terror, reached for him, her face contorted in disbelief and agony. Another shot. This one, a sickening thud, struck Kennedy in the head. The impact was horrific, a catastrophic wound that left no doubt. Blood, a stark, vivid crimson, erupted, splattering across the car, across Jackie's suit, across the very fabric of American innocence. Chaos erupted. The Secret Service agents, their faces etched with a desperate urgency, sprang into action. Agent Clint Hill, a blur of motion, scrambled onto the back of the limousine. pushing Jackie back into the seat, shielding her from further harm. The car accelerated, a desperate dash for life, for hope, for anything but this unfolding nightmare. The cheering crowd transformed into a symphony of screams, of gasps, of horrified silence. People scattered, ran for cover, their faces frozen in expressions of terror and disbelief. The air, moments before filled with celebratory noise, was now thick with the scent of gunpowder, a stench of fear, and the chilling echoes of those 3 fatal shots. The limousine, now a speeding vessel of despair, raced to Parkland Memorial Hospital, just minutes away. The doors of the emergency room burst open, revealing a scene of frantic activity. Doctors and nurses, initially unaware of the gravity of the situation, quickly grasped the enormity of the tragedy. They worked feverishly, desperately to save the president, but it was in vain. The wounds were too severe, the damage irreparable. In a small, windowless trauma room, at 1 p.m., John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States, was pronounced dead.
Good evening. The essential facts are these. President Kennedy was murdered in Dallas, Texas. He was shot by a sniper hiding in a building near his parade.
The news rippled through the hospital, then outward, consuming Dallas, then the nation, and finally, the world. It was a moment of profound collective shock. The vibrant future, the promise of Camelot, had been brutally extinguished in an instant. Across the country, life screeched to a halt. Schools let out, workplaces emptied, and families huddled around their television sets, desperate for information, for understanding, for solace. And then the image that became synonymous with that day, Walter Cronkite, the voice of America, his usually calm and steady demeanor replaced by a visible tremor, his eyes welling with unshed tears, as he removed his glasses and choked back emotion to deliver the news that no one wanted to hear. From Dallas, Texas, the Associated Press has just moved a bulletin. President Kennedy died at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. His voice cracked, mirroring the heartbreak of a nation. America wept. A profound collective grief enveloped the country, a sense of loss that transcended politics, touching every heart. As the nation reeled, the search for answers began. Within hours, a suspect was apprehended. Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine, a troubled young man with a history of defection to the Soviet Union and a murky past. His arrest brought a fleeting sense of relief, a tangible target for the nation's rage and sorrow. Oswald, defiant and unrepentant, insisted he was a patsy. His background was a bewildering mix of communist sympathies, a brief marriage to a Russian woman, and a series of failed jobs. He was a lone wolf, an enigma, and for many, an unsatisfying answer to a crime of such magnitude. But the story, already a maelstrom of shock and grief, took another unimaginable turn 2 days later. On Sunday, November 24th, as Oswald was being transferred from police headquarters, a man named Jack Ruby, a Dallas nightclub owner with alleged ties to the mob, lunged forward and, on live television, shot Lee Harvey Oswald at point-blank range. The nation watched, stunned, as the man accused of killing their president himself fell lifelessly to the ground. Ruby's motive remained shrouded in mystery. He claimed he wanted to spare Jackie Kennedy the ordeal of a trial, but darker theories immediately began to swirl. Oswald's murder ignited a firestorm of speculation and suspicion that has never truly abated. The immediate official narrative that Oswald acted alone was met with growing skepticism. How could one man, a seemingly unremarkable individual, have brought down such a powerful figure? The very public and chaotic nature of Oswald's death fueled the flames of doubt, making it impossible for many to accept the lone gunman theory. Conspiracy theories blossomed, spreading like wildfire through a traumatized nation hungry for explanations. The mafia, powerful and ruthless, with a motive to retaliate against Robert Kennedy's crackdown on organized crime, was a prime suspect. Did they orchestrate the hit? Perhaps with inside help? The CIA, a clandestine organization often operating in the shadows, was also eyed with suspicion. Their past operations, their perceived animosity towards Kennedy, particularly after the Bay of Pigs fiasco, made them a plausible, if disturbing, candidate. Cuban exiles, fiercely anti-Castro and disillusioned by Kennedy's perceived softness on the Cuban regime, also entered the equation. Was it revenge for the failed invasion, or a desperate act to ignite a stronger U.S. response against Cuba? And then, the most unsettling whispers of all, was Lyndon B. Johnson, the new president, involved? While largely dismissed by serious historians, the idea that a power-hungry vice president might have benefited from Kennedy's death became a dark undercurrent in some conspiracy circles. The physical evidence itself became a focal point of intense scrutiny. The magic bullet theory put forth by the Warren Commission argued that a single bullet, the pristine bullet found on a stretcher at Parkland Hospital, caused all 7 non-fatal wounds to both Kennedy and Governor Connally. This seemingly impossible trajectory, defying the laws of physics for many, became a cornerstone of the conspiracy arguments. How could one bullet, despite striking 2 men and multiple bones, emerge largely undamaged? Then there was the Zapruder film, a horrifying amateur home movie that captured the assassination in chilling detail. Frame by frame, it was meticulously analyzed, generating endless debates about the number of shots, their origin, and the nature of Kennedy's fatal wound. Was it truly a shot from behind, as the official report claimed? Or was there another shooter, perhaps from the grassy knoll? The Warren Commission, established by President Johnson to investigate the assassination, concluded that Oswald acted alone. But its report, meant to quell doubts, only seemed to fuel them, its contradictions and unanswered questions providing fertile ground for decades of alternative theories. Over the years, waves of declassified files have been released, each promising to finally reveal the truth. Yet, with every release, new questions seem to emerge. New, tantalizing snippets of information that hint at deeper complexities without providing definitive answers. We learned more about Oswald's contacts, about the FBI and CIA's prior knowledge of him, about the surveillance that failed to prevent the tragedy. But the ultimate secrets, the full, unvarnished truth, continues to elude us. The puzzle remains incomplete, pieces still missing, obscured by time, by shadows, by the very nature of a clandestine world. The assassination of John F. Kennedy was more than just a political murder. It was a wound to the American psyche, a shattering of innocence that resonated through generations. The optimism of the early 1960s, the belief in a brighter, more hopeful future, was irrevocably tainted. A sense of vulnerability, of a dark underbelly beneath the shining veneer of American power took root. The nation grieved not just for a president, but for a lost vision, a stolen dream. Robert Kennedy, his brother and closest confidant, was consumed by grief and a relentless pursuit of answers, a search that would eventually lead him to his own tragic end. Jacqueline Kennedy, a symbol of grace under immense pressure, endured the unimaginable with a quiet dignity that inspired the world. The Secret Service agents, forever haunted by their inability to protect their president, carried the burden of that day for the rest of their lives. The echo of those 3 gunshots in Dallas reverberates still. It changed America forever, ushering in an era of cynicism, of questioning authority, of a pervasive distrust in official narratives. The ideal of Camelot, once a beacon of hope, became a haunting melody, a reminder of what was lost. The legacy of JFK is forever intertwined with his death, his promise forever overshadowed by the brutal reality of his assassination. The unanswered questions continue to whisper through the corridors of history, a perpetual reminder of a moment that defied easy explanation, a wound that refuses to fully heal. The enduring mystery of that day, the confluence of fact, speculation, and profound human tragedy, continues to captivate and compel us, drawing us back to Dallas, to Dealey Plaza, to the moment America lost its innocence. If this story moved you, if it made you think, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Naked History for more untold history brought to life.